Today we're going to continue the Tailor of Gloucester. This is part 6 of our short story. It's a little bit difficult. Especially the beginning. The beginning of the story was difficult for me because there are a lot of things like fabrics and kinds of clothes that I don't know. And so you don't know either. So it's a little bit difficult to learn some of these words. But once we got past the very beginning, we started getting into the story of the tailor and his cat Simpkin and some of the mice that live in his workshop. And the mice help him out a little bit. So in this part of the story, we're going to... in the last part of the story, the mice were helping the tailor make that coat for the mayor of Gloucester. And so today we can see what happens next and maybe try to wrap up the story. Wrap up is another way to say finish. Okay? So let's just scroll through and review what happened in the story so far. We can read a little bit of what we read last time. I know it was a couple weeks ago. And then we can move on to the new part. So let's start from the beginning. So the Tailor of Gloucester is back in a time where people wore fancy clothes. So we learned a lot of difficult words about fancy clothing. And there was this old tailor who's really poor. He doesn't have any money and he's tired all the time. But he's working hard, a very hard-working person. And he would do his work and put it on the table, and there was nothing extra. Only little tiny bits would fall off. And nothing you could use, but maybe a mouse could use it to make some clothes, which we'll learn about later. And then we learned that he is making a coat for the mayor of Gloucester. Gloucester is a city, and the mayor is the boss of the city, kind of like the president of a city. That's the mayor. And so he made the coat, or he made the parts of the coat, and he laid them out on a table, but he didn't finish it. He's in a rush. He's working hard and working fast, but he needs some thread to finish this coat. And it's winter time. It's near Christmas. And he asks his cat to go shopping for him. But he was really tired and fell asleep. And then he realized when the cat went out shopping, he found that there were mice hidden in some of his teacups. How did they get there? Well, maybe the cat trapped the mice in the teacups. And so the old man lets these mice free. The mice get out and they bow to him. Say, "Oh, thank you, tailor," because he set them free. And then keep going. And then later, the cat comes back from shopping and he's a little bit angry because, my mice are all gone because I'm tired from shopping and now my snack, these mice, they're all gone. And so to get revenge, the cat took cherry-colored twist and hid it. This is not a common word, but twist in this story is thread, and the tailor needs this thread to finish the coat. So the tailor let the mice go free, and the cat is angry, so the cat hid the twist. He hid the thread that the tailor really needs. But then later, the tailor got really sick. He was laying ill in his bed. And then that means he couldn't work on that coat. There's not much time And so being sick for 3 days is a big problem. And then on Christmas Eve, or the night of Christmas Day, all of the mice and all of the cats and all of the animals start to speak at nighttime. And so all the birds and animals are making sound. And then some of the mice are singing songs. The mice are singing songs and making clothing in the workshop, in the tailor's workshop. And so they're singing music. And then later, you can see here, Simpkin, the cat, goes to the workshop and looks at the mice while they're working. Simpkin wants to eat the mice, but the mice are in the shop doing some work, making clothes. And the cat was angry and sniffing and making sounds, but the mice were just laughing and singing and making clothes. So, let's see. The mice are doing their work, and then after that, we can get to the new part. So let's start from here, where the mice are working, making clothing, they're sewing, and the cat is a little bit angry. And then we can move on to the new part. So, starting here with mew, mew, scratch, scratch, scuffled Simpkin on the windowsill, while the little mice inside sprang to their feet, and all began to shout at once in little twittering voices, "No more twist, no more twist!" And they barred up the window shutters and shut out Simpkin. So they're saying no more twist, just like what the tailor was saying, meaning no more thread to work with. And then they closed the windows and made Simpkin go away. But still through the nicks in the shutters, he could hear the click of thimbles. So a thimble is the thing you put on your thumb to when you make clothing or when you're sewing. Let's see. Thimble. We talked about this before, but a thimble looks like this. It's a thimble. I don't know if you've ever used a thimble, but you put it on your thumb when you're sewing so you don't hurt your finger. And so Simpkin, listening through the window, can hear the thimbles clicking, click, 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 as they tap their thimbles together when they're sewing. And little mouse voices singing, "No more twist, no more twist." So the mice are in the workshop working by themselves, and Simpkin can't get to them. So Simpkin gives up. He goes home. I love this picture of Simpkin. It's very cute. The cat is sitting next to the bed drinking tea. Very funny. So here, this is the new part. Simpkin came away from the shop and went home, considering in his mind. He found the poor old tailor without fever, sleeping peacefully. So he left the shop and went home. He came away from the shop. Same as left. He left the shop. Considering in his mind. Now, this is not something people say anymore. Considering and thinking are similar. And so now in modern English, we would just say thinking. I'll put it over here. Go away, thimble. You stay up there. So he's just thinking to himself. He's, considering, meaning thinking, in his mind, So thinking in his head. People now would just say thinking or thinking about things, whatever. And he found the poor old tailor without fever. So he's feeling better. He's not sick anymore. Sleeping peacefully. So sleeping in a nice way. Okay. Then, so starting here, then Simpkin went on tiptoe. Then Simpkin went on tiptoe and took a little parcel of silk out of the teapot and looked at it in the moonlight. And he felt quite ashamed of his badness compared with those good little mice. So, Simpkin went on tiptoe. Well, your toes are on your feet, and the tip means the end. So the end of your toes. So if you go on tiptoe, that means you walk on the tips of your toes. So it's like you stretch really high and walk. Here, to tiptoe, you're walking on the tips of your toes. That's to be very quiet, right? So the old man is sleeping peacefully, and being on tiptoe is to walk quietly. So you're walking on the very end of your toes. It could be to be quiet, or you could be reaching high. Both are okay on the tip of your toes. So tiptoe. Okay? And took a little parcel of silk out of the teapot. A parcel is a small package. Okay? And remember, Simpkin hid the tailor's silk. He hid that thread, the cherry-colored twist. He put it in a teapot. And so Simpkin is taking it out to give it back to the tailor. I keep thinking, oh, give it to the farmer. No, he's not a farmer. He's a tailor. My brain's broken. And so Simpkin looked at the parcel in the moonlight, and he felt quite ashamed. He felt ashamed of his badness. Badness is not very common anymore, but you can imagine. Badness means being bad. Okay? So Simpkin was bad because he stole the silk. He hid it. And he felt ashamed. Ashamed is similar to guilty. He felt guilty about doing it. Like, feel bad because, oh, I'm a bad guy. I feel ashamed. I feel guilty. It's a little bit like guilty, a little bit like embarrassed. Embarrassed. Is it one R or two R's? Oh, it's two R's. English is hard. Oh, you can't see. There we go. So he's a little bit guilty, a little bit embarrassed. So he's ashamed for being a bad cat. So he felt quite ashamed of his badness compared with those good little mice. So the mice are all nice and helping, and Simpkin was bad and hid the thread. Okay? Next. When the tailor awoke in the morning, the first thing which he saw upon the patchwork quilt was a skein of cherry-colored twisted silk. And beside his bed stood the repentant Simpkin. So, when the tailor awoke in the morning. This is a common word, and it's similar to woke up. It's the same as woke up. Usually people just say, oh, I woke up. But the old way of saying it is awoke. You'll see this a lot in stories. So when the tailor awoke in the morning, the first thing which he saw upon the patchwork quilt. This is saying the place where he saw it. He saw it upon the quilt. Upon is the same as on. And a quilt is a kind of blanket. So you can see the blanket on his bed. Okay? So he woke up, and the first thing he saw on his blanket or on his quilt, his quilt is a kind of blanket, was a skein of cherry-colored twisted silk. A skein, we learned, was like all this thread wrapped together into one bundle, one ball. Okay? Message from Chempei. Teacher Kyle is so good at imitating sounds. Makes stories really come alive. Oh, thank you. I'm trying my best. Which thing did I make a sound for? I don't know. Maybe whatever. But I'll try it later too. But I don't know if there are sounds for quilts in silk. I don't know. Okay. So he woke up and on his quilt, on his blanket, he sees the twisted silk, that thread that he needs. So, wow. And beside his bed, drinking tea, stood the repentant Simpkin. So his cat is standing next to him, and Simpkin is very repentant. This is not a very common word. You might hear the word repent. This is a verb. To repent is common in books and stories about church, because like if you do something bad, you need to repent. Repent is like kind of like make good, or to make up for a mistake. So you did something bad, you have to do something to make it better. So the word repent, sometimes you'll hear it. Repentant is an adjective. It's very uncommon. But what it means is that Simpkin feels guilty. He wants to do the right thing, so he feels repentant. Okay? It's tricky word. Okay. So the old man wakes up. Oh, my twist. Oh, Simpkin. And Simpkin looks very serious. Okay? And then he wakes up. Alack, I am worn to a ravelling, said the Tailor of Gloucester, but I have my twist. So we learned before that alack is like the word alas. Alas is kind of old-fashioned. Alack is very, 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 very old-fashioned. So sometimes you'll see alas, which means like, oh, too bad. So here he says, alack, I am worn to a ravelling. We learned that worn means very tired. And worn to a ravelling is an old way to say very, very tired. I think we learned together, we usually say, oh, I'm very worn out, meaning I'm really tired. Oh, I'm feeling worn out. That's common. People use that now a lot. Okay? He says, oh, I'm so tired. I'm worn to a ravelling, but I have my twist. So he has his silk thread that he needs, so everything's okay. Okay, keep going. The sun was shining on the snow when the tailor got up and dressed and came out into the street with Simpkin running before him. This part's not too hard, I think. The only thing is, he came out into the street with Simpkin running before him. Here, the word before, you could think of it as the time. but it's also, you can imagine it as in front of. So Simpkin is running in front of him. So Simpkin is running before him. So Simpkin ran first, so that means Simpkin's in front. Okay? And so then they go outside. The starlings whistled on the chimney stacks, and the throstles and robins sang. So these are birds, starlings, throstles, and robins. So the starlings whistled on the chimney stacks, and the throstles and robins sang. But they sang their own little noises, not the words they had sung in the night. So in the night before Christmas, they were speaking, they were singing words. But now they're singing their own little noises, like tweeting. So bird sounds. So they sang their own little noises, not the words from before. Oh, let's stay here. "Alack," said the tailor, "I have my twist, but no more strength, nor time, than will serve to make me one single buttonhole. For this is Christmas Day in the morning. The mayor of Gloucester shall be married by noon. And where is his cherry-colored coat?" So, again, we have alack, which is like, oh no, or too bad. "I have my twist, but no more strength, nor time." So, he has his twist, meaning the thread he needs, but no more time, nor strength. Sorry, no more strength, nor time. He was really sick, so he's not strong anymore. And he has no more time because it's Christmas Day. He needs to finish the coat right now. So no more time. So no more strength nor time. Then will serve to make me one single buttonhole. So no time then will serve to blah, blah, blah. This is an old way to say that I can use to. So he has no more strength, no more time that I can use to ... make one single buttonhole. Okay? Does that make sense? So you can, something serves to do something else. That means you can use that thing. So I have the time to serve to make blah, blah, blah. That means I have enough time to make something else. Here he has no strength, no time to use to make one buttonhole. Does that make sense? It's a little bit tricky. Now, why? For this is Christmas Day in the morning. Remember that for can mean because. Because this is Christmas Day in the morning. That's why he has no more time. The mayor of Gloucester shall be married by noon. So it's morning. The mayor is getting married at noon. When is noon? Noon is 12:00 p.m. Okay? It's not 12:30. It's not 1 o'clock. It's 12:00. Okay? So if it's morning, he doesn't have much time to finish that coat, right? Okay. And so the tailor is all worried and flustered. Oh my gosh, I have no time. And then he unlocked the door of the little shop in Westgate Street, and Simpkin ran in like a cat that expects something. So they went into the shop, but there was no one there. Well, okay, the cat was expecting something. What did he expect in the shop? Well, maybe he expected to see the mice. But There was no one there, not even one little brown mouse. So the shop is empty. All of the mice are gone. The boards were swept clean. The little ends of thread and the little silk snippets were all tidied away and gone from off the floor. So everything's clean. So swept clean means someone swept with a broom. So to swept is the past tense of sweep. You sweep the floor or sweep the boards here. The little ends of thread and little silk snippets, little pieces, were all tidied away. Tidied away, if tidy means clean. And so you could use tidy as a verb and say they cleaned it up and put it away. Okay? So everything's clean. There are no people, no mice, nothing around. But what is there? But upon the table, oh joy! The tailor gave a shout. There, where he had left plain cuttings of silk, there lay the most beautifulest coat and embroidered satin waistcoat that ever were worn by a mayor of Gloucester. So, everything's clean, but on the table, so upon is the same as on, upon the table, oh joy! So, the tailor shouts this, oh joy! This is like he's saying, oh yay! Joy is a word for happiness. Oops, sorry. Punching the microphone. Can you still hear me? Yeah. So he says, oh joy! So he's really happy. There where he had left plain cuttings of silk. So the cuttings means pieces that he cut. He took the silk and cut it into pieces, but he didn't put it together. Remember? And so, where he had left plain cuttings of silk, so in that place, there lay the most beautifulest coat. Now, this seems funny. Usually, we'd say most beautiful coat. Oops. If we use est, like est, that's usually on short words, right? Like the coldest day of the year, something like that. We don't put them together. The most beautifulest is kind of crazy English, but maybe it's old-fashioned, or maybe it's just for fun. So the rule is it should be most beautiful coat, but the author writes the most beautifulest coat. It's bad English, but it's fun and it sounds good. It makes you know it's very, very, very beautiful. So sometimes it's okay to break the rules. So, the most beautifulest coat and embroidered satin waistcoat. We learned that a waistcoat is like a vest, I think. And it's embroidered. Embroidered is like this picture down here. This over here. Where you use thread to make pictures on the fabric. Okay? And you can see on the coat, there's embroidery on the side or on the edges. Okay? Like embroidered often looks like flowers or plants. So it's the most beautiful coat and embroidered satin waistcoat that ever were worn by a mayor of Gloucester. So it's the most beautiful ever. Okay? Okay. Keep going. There were roses and pansies upon the facings of the coat, and the waistcoat was worked with poppies and cornflowers. So roses are red flowers, pansies, poppies, and cornflowers are all different kinds of flowers. So this is all the embroidery. They used thread to sew flowers into the coat and waistcoat. Okay? So there were roses and pansies upon the facings of the coat, and the waistcoat was worked with poppies and cornflowers. So the coat had some flowers, the waistcoat had others. Everything was finished except just one single cherry-colored buttonhole. So, but I'll keep going. And where that buttonhole was, I'm sorry, I'll try again. Everything was finished except just one single cherry-colored buttonhole. And where that buttonhole was wanting, there was pinned a scrap of paper with these words in little teeny-weeny writing. No more twist. Okay, so everything was finished. So the coat and the waistcoat. So everything was finished, but one thing is left. Except just one single cherry-colored buttonhole. So almost all of the coat and waistcoat are finished. Just one buttonhole is not finished. So we have a button like this, and a buttonhole is the hole where a button goes through. Okay? And so that's the only thing that's not finished. And where that buttonhole was wanting... Now, what is this word wanting? This is an old way to say, like, missing something. Missing. Or not there. So the buttonhole is not there. It's not finished. Okay? Kind of like the word lacking. You might have learned lacking before. Lacking means not having something. Okay? So where the buttonhole was wanting, so where the buttonhole was supposed to be, there was pinned a scrap of paper with these words in little teeny-weeny writing. This is a common word that you should learn. Teeny-weeny. You might know the word tiny, right? Tiny means very small. Teeny-weeny means very, very tiny. So extra tiny. And in the writing says, no more twist. So the mice were sewing the coat, and then they ran out of twist, just like the tailor. And they couldn't finish this one buttonhole. And so what happened? The mice helped him finish the coat, all but one buttonhole. And so the tailor, who had no strength and no more time, it's okay. The coat is finished. And then the next part. And from then began the luck of the Tailor of Gloucester. He grew quite stout and he grew quite rich. Okay. So from then began the luck of the Tailor of Gloucester. From then began the luck of means he started to become very lucky. Okay? He got lucky, meaning he started to make lots of money. He started to have a better time. He didn't get sick, blah, 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 blah. Lots of stuff. He grew quite stout. Stout is kind of like thick, like his body got thicker, maybe a little bit fat because he has money and now he can eat lots of food. A little bit thicker, it could be a little muscle, it could be a little bit fat. And he grew quite rich. So now he has lots of money from making clothes. So everything's okay for this tailor. And then the next part. So he's becoming lucky, and he made the most wonderful waistcoats for all the rich merchants of Gloucester, and for all the fine gentlemen of the country round. So he made wonderful waistcoats, remember, kind of like a vest, for all the rich merchants of Gloucester. A merchant is like a trader, someone who buys and sells things. So all the rich traders, all the rich merchants of Gloucester. And for all the fine gentlemen of the country round. Gentlemen are like nice men or kind men, okay? All the fine gentlemen of the country round. Now, this is an old way of saying it. What the author means is all the fine gentlemen around the country is what this means. So the tailor is becoming lucky. He starts to make clothes for all of the merchants of Gloucester, so all the rich people, and all the nice gentlemen around the country. So things are going really well. Okay. Duffy says, Kyle came back to the US in Taipei now? Nope. I am back in the United States. So I was in Taipei for 2 weeks, but I'm back in the US already. So we're doing Tailor of Gloucester, finishing it up. So thanks for asking. Okay. So the tailor, he was lucky again. He starts making clothes for all these people, and never were seen such ruffles or such embroidered cuffs and lappets. But his buttonholes were the greatest triumph of it all. So, never were seen blah, blah, blah. This is like people never saw blah, blah, blah before. So it's an old way of saying this. People never saw blah, blah, blah before. So people never saw such ruffles before. A ruffle is what you see in this picture. Like the fabric is ruffled like that. It's like this lumps of fabric, and they look kind of fancy. And so never were seen such ruffles, meaning no one ever saw something like this before because the tailors were so beautiful. Okay? I'll put that over there. Okay. Never were seen such ruffles or such embroidered cuffs and lappets. So remember, cuff is the end of a sleeve here. And so they're embroidered with flowers on the end. Okay? And we learned that lappets are kind of like maybe the collar of your shirt. Okay? But his buttonholes were the greatest triumph. The greatest triumph. Triumph is like a victory. And so here the greatest triumph means the best part. Like the most amazing part. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. He won everything. He should get a trophy. He's so good. So the greatest triumph. So his buttonholes were the greatest triumph of it all. So the buttonholes on his clothes were the best part. The stitches of those buttonholes were so neat. So neat. I wonder how they could be stitched by an old man in spectacles with crooked old fingers and a tailor's thimble. So, stitches means the sewing. So, every time you move a needle, that's one stitch. Stitch, stitch, stitch. So, on the buttonhole, there might be like 10 or 20 stitches. Like they so many times. Okay? The stitches of those buttonholes were so neat. Neat is like clean and perfect. Clean and perfect. Kind of like accurate. So they're really neat. Let's see. There we go. I want to make sure you can see everything. Oops, you can't. There we go. So the stitches were so neat. I wonder how they could be stitched by an old man in spectacles. So the sewing is so perfect. How could an old man in spectacles do that? Remember, spectacles are glasses. You can see S-P-E-C, spec, is always about your eyes, something about your eyes. Spectacles are glasses. Okay? So I wonder how they could be stitched by an old man in spectacles with crooked old fingers. So we talked about his fingers are not straight, they're crooked. So how could they be stitched by an old man in spectacles with crooked old fingers and a tailor's thimble? A thimble is the thing you put on your thumb. It's like, it's too amazing. They're too perfect that this old man with his bad fingers, he can't do that. No way. And so, the stitches of those buttonholes were so small, they looked as if they had been made by little mice. The end. So the stitches of those buttonholes were so small, they looked as if they had been made by little mice. And so everybody goes, wow, I wonder how this old man with his fingers could do those beautiful buttonholes. They look like they were made by mice. But the secret is, they were. The friendly mice who were singing on Christmas time were the ones who helped the tailor to finish all these clothes and make these beautiful buttonholes and beautiful stitches. And the end. What do you think? So, in the end, it ends up being a happy story. The tailor is really worried about running out of time. Oh, I won't finish the coat. No more twist. Oh no. But then he helps the mice, and then later the mice help him to make the coat. Because he makes the coat for the mayor, suddenly he's lucky and he starts to get lots of business. He can make lots of clothes, and now he's rich and more healthy. So lucky for the tailor. Okay, so what we can do, we can go back and read this part one more time, and then we can say goodbye for today. Okay, so 1 second. Duffy says, I want to listen to Teacher Kyle introduce Massachusetts' university town and all of the museums. Okay, so yeah, I could introduce something about some of the universities here in Massachusetts. There's Harvard University and MIT, and there are a lot of universities in Massachusetts. And then museums, there are quite a few good museums too, like the Boston Museum of Fine Arts is a really nice museum. So maybe I could tell you a little bit about those. You have to remember, I haven't lived in Massachusetts for like 10 years, so I don't know a lot, but I can do some research. Maybe I can go to some of these museums and learn about them and share with you. So yeah, good idea. Universities and museums. Okay, now let's finish up Tailor of Gloucester. Now we can read through what we learned today one more time and then the end. Okay, so let's start from where Simpkin got kicked out of the shop and the tailor is still in bed. Simpkin came away from the shop and went home, considering in his mind. He found the poor old tailor without fever, sleeping peacefully. Then Simpkin went on tiptoe and took a little parcel of silk out of the teapot and looked at it in the moonlight. He felt quite ashamed of his badness compared with those good little mice. When the tailor awoke in the morning, the first thing which he saw upon the patchwork quilt was a skein of cherry-colored twisted silk, and beside his bed stood the repentant Simpkin. Wow. Alack, I am worn to a ravelling, said the Tailor of Gloucester, but I have my twist. The sun was shining on the snow when the tailor got up and dressed, and came out into the street with Simpkin running before him. The starlings whistled on the chimney stacks, and the throstles and robins sang. But they sang their own little noises, not the words they had sung in the night. Alack, said the tailor, I have my twist, but no more strength, nor time, than will serve to make me one single buttonhole. For this is Christmas Day in the morning. The Mayor of Gloucester shall be married by noon. And where is his cherry-colored coat? He unlocked the door of the little shop in Westgate Street, and Simpkin ran in, like a cat that expects something. But there was no one there. Not even one little brown mouse. The boards were swept clean. The little ends of thread and the little silk snippets were all tidied away and gone from off the floor. But upon the table, oh joy! The tailor gave a shout. There, where he had left plain cuttings of silk, there lay the most beautifulest coat and embroidered satin waistcoat that ever were worn by a mayor of Gloucester. There were roses and pansies upon the facings of the coat, and the waistcoat was worked with poppies and cornflowers. Everything was finished except just one single cherry-colored buttonhole, and where that buttonhole was wanting, there was pinned a scrap of paper with these words, in little teeny-weeny writing, "No more twist." And from then began the luck of the Tailor of Gloucester. He grew quite stout, and he grew quite rich. He made the most wonderful waistcoats for all the rich merchants of Gloucester, and for all the fine gentlemen of the country round. Never were seen such ruffles, or such embroidered cuffs and lappets. But his buttonholes were the greatest triumph of it all. The stitches of those buttonholes were so neat, so neat. I wonder how they could be stitched by an old man in spectacles with crooked old fingers and a tailor's thimble. The stitches of those buttonholes were so small, they looked as if they had been made by little mice. The end. And that's the Tailor of Gloucester. I know it took us a little while to do it, but thank you for joining. I hope you had a good time. It's a really fun, cute story. Very difficult at the beginning, but once we got into it, we got used to the way the story worked and got to know Simpkin and the tailor and some of the mice. It got a little bit easier. So I think that's a lesson for all of us. If you're reading a story, if there are sections that are really difficult, like the beginning of the story, it's okay. Sometimes I have to look up words, and I'm a native English speaker. And so if you have to look up words, don't feel guilty. It's totally okay. You don't need to know everything. And then a lot of the words are not very important to remember. Some of them are like ones about clothing or fabric. And so when you see words like that, remember it's okay. You can Google it, see what it is, and then go, okay, and just move forward. You don't need to memorize every word. If you ask me next week, hey, Kyle, what is a lappet? I'll go, I forget. Or what is taffeta or taffeta? I'll say, I don't remember. Because it's okay. If it's a super specific word or super difficult word, you don't always have to remember it. So focus on words you see a bunch of times, words that are useful for you. If you make clothes or you're interested in making clothes, then learning those words is great. But if you learn difficult words that don't connect to something you care about, it's okay to kind of like Google it and then just move forward, right? But I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope it was fun. And maybe next time we can try a different story. And yeah. So thank you for joining me for this Beatrix Potter adventure. It was fun. Okay. Duffy says, I hope Teacher Kyle introduces us to Meta Llama AI. It is only used on US networks. If you're in Taiwan, you can use a VPN to use Llama AI. I don't know what Llama AI is. So I'll have to Google that and learn about it. But I've used ChatGPT a little bit, but I don't really have a use for it. I don't really... I think it's good for getting ideas, but for me, or it's not getting ideas. It's a good way to help you think of new ideas. But I haven't found AI to be super useful for me. But I can look into Llama AI and see what it is, and maybe it might be useful for us. I can try to figure out ways to use it. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm too traditional. Llama AI is better than ChatGPT. Okay. I don't really have a use for ChatGPT, so I probably don't really have a use for Llama AI. I'm not really sure how it would help me. But I can look into it. Thank you for the idea. Okay, so that's our story, The Tailor of Gloucester. We finished it in 6 parts. That's kind of a lot, kind of a long time. But I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something new. And let me know if there are any other stories that you're interested in learning. We can choose a new one for next time. Or maybe we can discuss a new topic. Okay? So let's stop here. I hope you have a wonderful day. And stay healthy, stay happy, and go wear some embroidered clothing, or go wear some clothes with flowers on them. I think that kind of stuff is fun. Just like the Mayor of Gloucester, a jacket with lots of flowers on it. Okay, let's stop here, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.